Hello, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. It's a wrap here, aka Yudi, and we're here to talk about The Perfect Find, the film, as well as the book. Let me tell you all what I think. All right, y'all. So the film adaptation of Tia Williams' 2016 novel, The Perfect Find, recently came out, and I had the chance to watch it. And before I watched it, I went ahead and got the audiobook, and I listened to the audiobook, which I think came out a little bit after the book. And the audiobook is excellent. But all that to say, guys, I was a little bit disappointed in the film. And I don't know if the film did the book justice in terms of like the justice of how developed those characters were in the book. I don't think that it translated as well into the film or as I anticipated. And actually watching it, really, I felt like there was a lot important things missing from the book into the film that made the film less enjoyable. And this is, I don't know, people who haven't read the book have said that they really enjoyed it and it was light and funny. I don't think it was as light as the movie made it out to be. Like, it was so light, I'm like, what exactly happened? Like, we just saw some like cute photographic moments of like two people together, and it was so light, like I didn't believe their story of them falling in love. So let me get into it, because I had so much commentary. I was thinking, what was the best way for me to do this? So I'm just going to actually go character by character and compare the character in the book to the character in the film, and hopefully thinking about the comparison in that way will keep my thoughts organized. And before I get into that, if you're here, I'm assuming that you've seen the film or you've read the book, but there's spoilers. I can't do a comparison of a book and a film and not give spoilers. And I am going to spoil the end for the book and for the film. If you don't care to read the book or don't care to see the movie, just a little synopsis about what this story is about. So this story follows an older woman in her 40s named Jenna, who is making a comeback into her career in the fashion media industry after having like a blowout breakup with her ex-partner and kind of self-destructing or having an episode at a fashion or a big fashion event that really tarnishes her name in the industry. And then she falls off the radar and goes back home, lives with her mother, and tries to recoup. So she's recouped and now she's back, but she's not on top anymore, and she has to come crawling back to her, I guess, arch nemesis in the industry named Darcy, who now owns a magazine, her own publication. So she comes back to her and like pretty much begs her for a job, and she gets this job working for Darcy's magazine. And she's just rebuilding her life after this like big episode, romantically, professionally, after this has happened. And then in that, she meets a younger man named Eric, who is like a recent grad. I'm just going to say recent grad because there's a little bit of a difference in the book between the film. But yeah, he's a recent grad, and they meet and then, somehow end up working together. And pretty much it's like their relationship and like the ins and outs of that. Yes, let me start with the minor characters. So first we have the friends of Eric and the friends of Jenna, sorry. So the friends of Jenna, Elodie and Billy. So Billy is married and she has her daughter May. Jenna really wants children. And Billy throughout the book tries to set Jenna up with like possible people that, she can date. And it's really only two people. But in the film, there's only like one person that she sets her up with. And that scene follows pretty close to the book. I actually like Billy in the film. So the minor characters are the ones that I enjoyed the most, and I think stayed the most true within the film. You don't really learn a lot about Billy in the book, and you don't really learn a lot about Billy in the film, so I'm not too mad about Billy. But Elodie for me takes a little bit of a turn. Elodie is another friend of Jenna's, and Elodie in the book seems to be just, she's single and she's just, just out living life and seems very carefree. And you don't really get that about Elodie in the film. Also, Elodie in the film, I think, is played by Lala. And there's which I'll get into these two minor characters, but there is a scene where Elodie meets one of Eric's friends, like girlfriends, and there's this whole like party scene, and like there's party drugs involved anyway, but like they end up like sleeping together, like Elodie and Carlotta, which I'll mention later. But in the film they don't really sleep together, and you don't really get the vibe that they're like flirting with each other or they have like this romantic like banter thing going on. You don't really get to see the differences between Elodie and Billy in terms of like how they're different friends to Jenna. But you don't really get that in the book either, but at least you get that like the difference in their personality. And you don't really get that in the film. And the next two people, actually, these were the two people I thought that were the most close to how I envisioned them and how I read them in the book. And that's Tim and Carlotta. And Tim and Carlotta are friends to Eric. So, and I don't really, in the film, I don't really think you get Tim's character that much, but I definitely think like how I envisioned Tim looking in the book is how he looked in the film. In the way his character came off in the film was how it came off to me in the book. But Tim is, so for context, Eric comes from like this upper class, socialite family or mother. He goes through this transition of like, we had nothing to now we have everything. So Tim is adopted, but he also comes from like this well-off like artsy family. Tim dates Carlotta. In the film, Carlotta is played by the rapper Jungle Pussy, who I actually love her music, and I was actually really happy to see her on the screen, and I thought she was really perfect for that role. But Carlotta is like or in the book, they don't really specify what she is in the film, but in the book, I'm pretty sure she was like a dancer. She's like a dancer in the book, and like she meets Tim, and they just have this really like funny but strange relationship. But Tim is like oddly wise, which you don't really get in the film. You don't get like the words of wisdom that Tim gives to Eric about dating Jenna and how it possibly wouldn't work, or not seeing the flaws in like Eric is so deep in love with Jenna that he can't see that like, y'all have some really serious issues that you guys are so in love with each other and not addressing. Like you're just living in this la la land. He was like you've met all her friends and you hang out with her friends, but has she ever hung out with your friends? Like pretty much she's too mature for you. But you don't really get that you actually don't get a lot of like Eric's life. Like in the book, there's this whole world, that Eric has that's not really addressed in the film. And I think because they don't address it in the film, like things happen and you just don't really understand or given no context pretty much. I actually enjoyed Tim and Carlotta's character, and I wish there was more of them in the book. I wish there was more of them in the film. So let's get to Brian. Brian is Jenna's ex. I think Brian was so important in the book in terms of Jenna's journey, and also I understand that probably there wasn't enough time to explore Jenna and Eric's relationship and Jenna and Brian's relationship, so that's why Brian's got cut so short. And then also in the book, Brian was a white Jewish man, and in the film, Brian is a black man. But yeah, we don't get a lot of Brian in the film at all. Like, he's probably in there for like 30 seconds. In the book, Jenna is really like going through the motions of like separating herself from her relationship that she had with Brian's mother, and kind of going through like where their relationship went wrong. She thinks that like Brian like fell out of love with her and was possibly cheating, but it's really like Brian and his own issues with like finances that he never shares with Jenna, and it pretty much is like the demise of their relationship. But also they're just not compatible. Like, they learn when they get back together that also they just weren't compatible, and they would have never worked, period, because they just desire different things. You don't get all that in the film. And you're kind of left like, what was the point of Brian even being there? You know, we learn, in the book, we learn that Brian and Jenna went to Georgetown together, and that's how they met. And Brian was his finance major, and like Jenna kind of went with whatever Brian said or what Brian did, and she didn't really have her own identity. She doesn't realize that until like she's separated from Brian and she's gone through life, and now she's like with Eric, and she realizes that like, wow, she really wasn't her true self with Brian. But you get none of that. But let me just say this. So in the film, Eric and Jenna have an argument in the taxi. So Eric gets a call from his ex, Madison, and Jenna's like, answer it. So then he answers it. He's like, oh, it's just my ex. And then Jenna makes this comment about what kind of woman Madison is, and what kind of man Eric is. And he's just like, you don't know anything about me. He's really upset about it. But I think it makes more sense in the book, because when she's like saying that Madison is meek and kind of malleable, and that's why Eric liked her, it was kind of what Jenna was to Brian when they first met, and she didn't see it until like she had grown and learned herself and like, got out of it. You know what I'm saying? So she is kind of projecting. She's projecting. Also kind of like projecting as like, but I was Madison kind of thing. That's how I got it within the book. Like, in the film, it's like they barely know each other. Why are they going back and forth like this? And also I felt like there was so much more that happened between the taxi scene and when they first met in like the party that wasn't really expounded upon, or just was completely cut out. So let's get into Darcy, because now we're getting to the character. Like, these, from Brian up, these are the characters that I think were just not given the justice that they deserved within the film. So Darcy was a lot meaner in the book, but it also made more sense because in the book we got to really learn, while not directly through Darcy, we got to learn like Darcy, how like she had to be quick-witted and cunning, and she didn't come up the same. Like, her and Jenna don't come from the same background once you like hear Darcy's story. So Darcy has Eric at 16. In the book, I'm pretty sure in the book Darcy is Caribbean, but in the film Darcy is Afro-Latina, which makes sense because Gina Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure she's like Afro-Cuban. So that was nice that Gina got to be, she like throws in Spanish here and there. Like, she very much like is like, I'm an Afro-Latino from Brooklyn. So yeah, that was fun. But Darcy has Eric at 16, and she pretty much is not the greatest mother, because she's so super focused on making it, like going to school, getting a good job, so forth. And in that, she doesn't really caring, nurturing to Eric, and she's not really that great of a mother. And the big thing is that Jenna also slept with one of like Darcy's exes, who also I guess wasn't that great of a guy anyways. But Darcy also sleeps with like a lot of men, and like she uses men. She actually like slept with, how she got the magazine with her kind of like marrying this man and doing some conniving things when they separated to get this magazine. In the film, Darcy just is not as conniving and self-centered in the film as she is in the book, which was kind of upsetting. And also I didn't really like the end. And we really didn't get like the rift that Eric has with his relationship with his mother. That's not really present in the film at all. And maybe because there wasn't really enough time in the film to like look at that dynamic. And I keep saying there wasn't enough time. In my head, this probably could have been a series. And I think 7 Days in June is going to be a series, which is so funny because I think 7 Days in June is, in terms of its content, would play better as a film. So I wish it was flopped. I wish 7 Days in June would have been this film, would have been a film, and then they would have made The Perfect Fine a series, because I feel like there's so much like the books had a lot, but I feel like there was more you probably could have expounded on in a series that and I think to make this romance work and to make us really feel the romance between Eric and Jenna, like you needed all this context. And because the film is so short, they take out a lot of the context and things happen and you just kind of like, what is going on? Let's move into Jenna. So like for Jenna, like Jenna comes to work for Darcy, and she's only on this 3-month contract with Darcy to come up with like some social media, something that'll garner views and drive traffic onto, like, I guess their the digital page of the magazine, you know, because it's the 2010s and we're transitioning from print into digital. But the thing is, while Jenna knows a lot about fashion and has worked in the fashion industry, she hasn't really been here for the transition, like the digital media transition, and she's not hip to social media. She's fallen off the face of the earth. Like she's not connected. She's not hip to social, let alone to direct a whole project for it. But she has to fake the funk, you know, because she needs this job and she needs to like put herself back to in the position in her career that she was before. Like she can't show people that she's kind of fallen off or is not as in tune with the industry as she was before. The film is not super clear on what exactly Jenna is doing at this magazine. I don't even think it's really clear that Darcy is a magazine. Like, we know that they do fashion, but we're not sure what exactly is Darcy. What exactly is Jenna doing? What exactly is this project that Eric and Jenna are working on? I have no clue. There is a scene where they're counting down when they do decide what the project is, which is completely different from the book. That they're counting down like when they reach 1 million, but I'm just like, 1 million what? I didn't understand what the 1 million represented. I was confused. Like she's acting like everything is fine after this whole breakdown episode when everything isn't like what it was before, but she's still trying to put on the facade like it is. Like the apartment that she lives in Brooklyn isn't in the nicest neighborhood and it isn't that nice, but she kind of like dolls up the inside to make it feel like it was this nice, I guess, penthouse or home, whatever, that she had with Brian when it's not. And like there's a whole scene in the book where she goes to Target and she runs into one of the younger coworkers and they're like, Jenna, what are you doing in Target? And she tries to fake like, oh, I'm just working on an article, when it's obviously she's shopping for herself. And then there's this whole scene where she sits down with the girls and they're all like, yeah, girl, like we're roommates and I haven't paid my electric bill in like who knows how long. And then they go on this whole adventure on how to like get knockoff stuff in fashion and, you know, that whole thing. And I thought that would have been a cute scene to have in the film, but it was in the film. Jenna in the film doesn't even really interact with her coworkers at Darzine at all. Like like at all. Like we don't know anything about these characters. She's barely in the office, honestly. Like maybe it's like 3 scenes of her in the office. The video project that they had in the film, it doesn't make any sense. Like maybe it made sense to other people. Explain to me what exactly was this video project in the actual film, because I don't actually understand what it was. I know it just wasn't the same as the one in the book. And the one in the book made sense. Actually, Jenna with work it does, the book does it so much better than the film does. And I felt like it was such an important piece because when which I thought the scene, T.S. Madison, I think T.S. Madison as Greta was hilarious. I thought that scene in the book was hilarious, but like T.S. Madison had me hollering about her and her Taraji P. Henson peacock. But that scene, for me, again, it didn't translate that well in the film because it's kind of like we don't really get to see how Jenna is stuck in her ways. To the point that it's like to her detriment. Like there isn't anything in the film that shows that Jenna knows nothing about digital marketing. Like she has this job, but she actually doesn't know anything about digital marketing. She doesn't know anything about creating content for a digital platform. And and Eric does know, and they kind of lean into each other because of that. And I think that is that's where there is some kind of trust, because Eric kind of covers for Jenna, in front of his mother Darcy, and Jenna is afraid of Darcy figuring out that Jenna don't know what the hell she's doing. Like she knows, but she don't know. I don't know if we really got like the full facade of Jenna's like character in terms of like her insecurities at work, how she really desired children, and how that was a really big thing about the thing that really put a wedge in Eric and Jenna's relationship was at where they were at the point that they met in their lives. Like Jenna is in her 40s and she broke up with Brian because she wanted to be married and have kids, and she had been with this man for like a decade, and she's all like, yo, like at this point me having kids is like, that's what I really want, so I have to leave you. To Eric, who, well, in the film he's just graduated with his master's, so he's like, I'm just gonna say 26, 27-ish. And then we have in the book, he just graduated from undergrad. Like he's 22, 23-ish. So Eric is a lot younger in the book. But that whole like them being at different places in their life is not really in the film expounded upon, especially the conversation that Eric has with Tim and Carlotta. Like none of those conversations really happen because there's all the scenes that they're in outside of like when we first meet Tim and Carlotta, all the scenes in the book are not in the film. Even the scenes Jenna has with her friends, because Jenna and her friends are all like, girl, what are you really doing with Eric? Because I know you really want kids. Like you really want kids. Like the whole scene, Jenna overcompensating that Eric is as mature as they're asking questions. It's like, yo, I'm 22. I just graduated from college. I'm not there yet. Like I'm not even in that mind space right now. And Jenna tries to front like he is, and he's all like, girl, why are you fronting? Like, you know, you're trying to make me into somebody that I am not. And that's their first real riff. And that's when Eric starts thinking that, girl, are you talking to Brian again? Because Brian is able to be these things that you want and I'm not. And let's end with Eric. I think Eric was, I actually saw Keith Powers playing Eric. When I read the book, did I see Keith Powers? No, I did not see Keith Powers when I read the book. And let me maybe I'll throw up a picture of how I pictured Eric to be. Like how I imagined Eric when they said that he was like this hipstery socialite kid who was obsessed with sneakers, who was from Brooklyn. When I saw the trailer and I saw like little photographs of how they were dressing Keith, I was like, this is not how I imagined Eric to dress at all. I think Eric was probably, and I think if we had understood Eric more, like if we had got more of the scenes in the book of Eric that we were supposed to get, it would have made Eric and Jenna's story more believable, because in the film, I think what made me not like the film was I was not invested in Eric and Jenna falling in love. Like I loved the first scene where they first meet at that party. And Jenna goes and starts making out with Eric, and then Jenna's Billy and Elodie come, and they're all like, "Girl, what?" What is happening? Why are you making out with this young boy? Like, I don't understand why Jenna made the comment of like, I'm kissing. Did she say in the book that she was kissing the fetus? I felt like, if anything, she was like so drunk and like caught up in like the moment, and she was just all like, I'm in love with you. Like, like for me, it was, in the film, it was cringe. In the book, it was funny. And that was another thing that made me feel like, oh, okay, maybe this need to be like an actual series, because there's so much context in between that would have made the build in the relationship feel a lot better paced than how it goes in the film. Some scenes that I wanted to see that weren't really there. One, when Eric goes out with Tim and Carlotta to like this music video filming party. And A$AP Rocky's like, it's, I guess, for A$AP Rocky video, very random, but like in the book, pretty much his life consists of filming and chilling with his boys and getting high. He's just chilling. And we really don't get that about Eric. And Jenna jokes about it. Like, Jenna jokes about him always getting high. Like, I really want to talk about the ending, because I think the ending is where the film really lost me, and I really think the book did better, or it made more sense. But before we do that, let's just talk about the music in the film, because the music in the film, I loved the music in the film. I did. Did I feel like it was distracting at times? Yes. But did I still really enjoy it and I was singing along? Like when the montage, when like, you know, that third act breakup, when they were like separated and it was Christmas time and they played Mariah Carey, Miss You Most. That's like my favorite Christmas song, or like just the Mariah Carey Christmas album period is like my favorite. But Miss You Most at Christmas time, and I can't get you out my mind. It didn't really like resonate, because I was just like, I felt like the breakup in the book felt a lot more justified, or I felt like there was a lot more like behind it, like a lot more emotion behind it, like, oh they're not, I don't think they can make it. Then in the film everything felt so rushed that it was like they were together 1 second, sleeping together all the time, and then next thing you know, they're not together. It was just strange. In the book, I think getting to the end, their breakup makes more sense. And two, when they break up, it needs to happen. Like, it's justifiable. Like, for us, we're trying to understand how could this be sustainable. And when they get back together, thing that was making the relationship seem so impossible, they had went and done these things. And also a lot of time had gone by. 3 or 4 years had gone by, and they were like catching up with each other. So either way, in the book and in the film, Jenna ends up pregnant. Jenna ends up having Eric's kid. But in the book, Eric doesn't know that. So they break up. And also when they break up, Jenna doesn't know that. But when Jenna finds out, she kind of like, she's just like, they're broken up. They're already separated. She goes and she wants the kid. So she goes and she has this kid, and she goes and she lives her life. And then Eric goes and he lives his life, and he ends up working with South by Southwest. He ends up getting this grant to film a documentary about his father, and they see each other again. You know, they're updating each other on each other's lives, and the things that were making this relationship so hard, they did when they were apart. Jenna has Eric's baby. The child has a lisp. He's all like, here's this lisp, and he's all like, yo, you had my son? And that's how it ends. It's like, oh, okay, let me get to know this boy. That's my son. But in the film, like, they've been apart for like, I don't actually know how long they've been apart. I'm not sure it's only been a couple months. And then they meet in a cafe, and granted, you know, in the book, when Jenna and Eric meet again with this child, I'm assuming Eric is the age that he's in the film. So in the film, Eric is a little bit older, and Eric starts when Eric and Jenna first meet. Eric is a lot younger. So anyway, in the end, it's like Eric is like in his late 20s. That's the point I'm trying to make. So they sit down at this table, and she's all like, I'm pregnant. And he's all like, what? I can't deal with a child right now, which is like expected, you know? And Yeah, I was just like, the Jenna in the book is not the Jenna in this film, because the Jenna in the book is aware of this. It's like the gripe that they're going through. Like, she knows that this boy is young, and she knows that she wants a kid, and she knows that he's not ready to be a dad. But then in the film, the Jenna in the film brings this ultrasound picture to a freaking dinner table, and it's all like, yo, I don't like your response right now to the fact that I'm about to have your child. But even though this man, it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. The Jen in the book, I feel like the Jen in the book wouldn't have done this. So then they have this whole like grip, and he's just like, I don't want to be involved. And she just is about to have this baby by herself. But then Darcy shows up, which is also out of Darcy's character in the book. In the book, Darcy would have been all like evil. Like, Darcy would have wanted nothing to do with this. But the Darcy in the film has more heart and shows up to her, and she's all like, I'm not going to do you like my parents did me when I was 16 and pregnant. But in the book, Darcy's all like, girl, you don't even understand nothing about no kids, because like you don't even have no, but I got a kid. Like she's real shiesty in the book, you know, real shiesty. But in the film, she's just all like, I'm gonna be a grandma. When freaking Eric comes and sits at the freaking family doctor appointment for the baby, and then he's all like, come with me to this gala, and then here comes Gabrielle Union, or Jenna, coming to this gala pregnant, and it's like this happy ending, and then she's all like, I found my perfect find, when the catch for the perfect find was like the series, the little docu-series that they did, the web series that Eric and Jenna worked on together, was called The Perfect Find. It was like finding that perfect outfit for whatever person for each episode. And yeah, that's just how it ends. And I just didn't, I was like, no, y'all. Yeah, just listen to the audiobook. That's how I felt. Just listen to the audiobook. I could see this like in The Fashion of Harlem on Amazon, like that kind of energy for The Perfect Find. Yeah, I could have seen like a Harlem-esque energy. Also, it's set in New York, which is probably why I'm saying this. If we could have like a Harlem-esque energy in the series, like that kind of pacing, but for The Perfect Find, I think this would have been perfect. You know, listen to the audiobook. That's what I'm going to say. Listen to the audiobook. And let me know what you think in the comments. Okay, but yeah, until the next time, guys, deuces.